welcome to Kiki Crochet. In this video tutorial we are going to learn how to crochet this beautiful dress. It's for 12 years old and the total length is 85 centimeters, and this length is a little over the knee, and I'm going to have a second column where I'm going to have the total length for dresses that will come up to the knee, just in case you want to make it a little longer. I'm crocheting with a yarn which is 55% cotton and 45% acrylic. Each skein is 3.53 ounces and 361 yards. Okay, and I'm crocheting with a 4mm crochet hook. Now for the top part, the white part of my dress, this is an open back dress. The top part I need 1.5 skein for 12 years old, and for the bottom part, the green and the bow and the ruffles over here in the back, I used a total of 3.5 skeins. Okay, this is lightweight yarn, and if you use the same similar thickness of yarn, you can use the setup that I have on my chart in the beginning of the video. But if you're using a thinner yarn with smaller crochet hook or thicker yarn with bigger crochet hook, you're going to need to change the setup that I have for each size. But the measurements for all the other things you need, you know, for the chest, the sleeves and so on, stay the same. Okay, so now let's see the material that I'm going to use, how I'm using the setup from my charts, and how to start. The yarn that I'm going to use is Alize Cotton Gold, which is 3.53 ounces and 361 yards each skein. And I'm going to use the white yarn for the top of my dress, and the green yarn is going to be the bottom for the skirt part. And the hook that I'm going to use is a 4mm crochet hook. Okay, now before we start to see how to begin with our dress, I want to explain how you can use the setup from the chart in the beginning of the video. So I'm crocheting for 12 years old, and I'm going to start with 60 chains. Now my setup is as follows: 1, 13, 26, 13 and 1. And if you add all those numbers together, 1 plus 13 is 14, plus 26 is 40, plus 13 is 53, plus 1 54, plus 4 for the 4 increase is 58, plus 2 the chains that I need to turn to row 1 so all the stitches come out right, 60. Now every dash after my numbers is my increase, so I'm going to begin with 1 double crochet, which is the back, increase, 13 double crochet, which is the one sleeve, increase, 26 double crochet, which is going to be the front, and then increase, 13 double crochet, which is going to be the other sleeve, increase, and finish row with 1 double crochet, which is going to be the other side for the back. Okay, and we're going to be working increases in every third row over here in the beginning and in the end of the row, so the back will slowly close up. Okay, I have started with my 60 chains. Okay, and now let's start row 1. And in the way that I'm going to start, okay, you are going to start for all sizes, because all sizes need a 1 double crochet in the beginning, then an increase, and then you start with a sleeve. The steps that I'm going to do now for row 1, you're going to follow for all sizes, okay, only right here in the beginning. So for all sizes, because we need 1 double crochet in the beginning, and the 1 double crochet in the chains are 3 chains, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm skipping 3 chains, which count as my first double crochet. In the 4th stitch, I'm going to work my increase, because my setup says that I need 1 double crochet in the beginning and then to work the increase. So right away in the 4th chain, I'm going to work my first increase, where I'm going to do 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 more double crochet in the same chain. And if you're afraid that you're going to lose your increases, please place a stitch marker in the chain 2 space. because always in the chain 2 space you're going to be working your increases. So this is what we have at this point, 1 double crochet and then my increase. And for the size that I'm crocheting for 12 years old, I need to continue with 13 double crochet. So 1 double crochet in each of the next 13 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Now, after my 13th double crochet, I'm going to work an increase. Again, in the next chain, work 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet in the same chain. Okay? And again, place a stitch marker in the chain 2 space, because in the next row, I'm going to work an increase in the same space. Now I'm going to continue, as my setup says, with 26 double crochet, starting from the next chain. 1, 2, 3, and keep working up until you have your 26 stitches. I have worked my 26 stitches for the front part, and right away I'm going to work my increase in the next chain. I'm going to work 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 more double crochet in the same chain. And again, place a stitch marker in the chain 2 space, because always in the chain 2 space we're going to be working our increases. And then I'm going to continue with 13 double crochet, as my setup says, and those 13 stitches are my other sleeve, starting from the next chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And for all sizes, you're left with only 2 chains, okay? So in the next chain, I'm going to work my increase, 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet in the same chain. And again, place your stitch marker in the chain 2 space. And in the last chain, as we did in the beginning, we only need 1 double crochet. Okay, And this is what we have at this point. Now, this is the front. These are going to be my sleeves, and this right here is the back, in which we are slowly going to work increases to close it down to have a big V opening in the back of the dress. Now let's start with row 2, and for all sizes you are going to work your increase in the beginning of the row, okay, for all sizes. So in order to work my increase, now we know that 3 chains count as 1 double crochet, and we should start with 3 chains, but because I don't want to have big gaps in the beginning of my rows, I'm going to start with only 2 instead of 3, and those 2 chains will count as a double crochet. So chain 2, 1, 2, and turn your work. Sorry. We have 2 chains, okay, and turn your work. And in the very first stitch, right over here in the first double crochet, work 1 more double crochet. So by doing this, the chain 2 and the double crochet give me my first 2 stitches of the row, okay, and this is my increase because they're both worked in the same stitch. Now, just so I don't get confused and I know which is the row where I have worked my increase, I'm just going to place a stitch marker right here in the beginning. Now, if you don't want to have the stitch marker and you're going to count your stitches, you can go ahead and remove it, but this is so I know that this is the row of increase. Then I'm going to work 2 rows without increases in the beginning, and then my increase again. Okay. Now in the next stitch, I'm going to work 1 double crochet, and right away I'm going to work my increase in the chain 2 space. So again, my increase is always going to be 1 double crochet, 2 chains, and 1 more double crochet under the same chain 2 space. Okay, again in the chain 2, place your stitch marker. And now for all sizes, okay, what's going to happen now, because of the increases that we work, on each of the sides, I'm going to have 2 extra double crochet in every row. So because I had 13 double crochet here, adding the 1 double crochet from the one increase and the 1 from the other, in this row I'm going to have 15. In the center, which is the front side, the 26 stitches are going to become 28, and the other side for the sleeves is going to become 15 as well. As of the beginning, right here, in the rows where I'm going to have my increase, I'm going to have 2 extra stitches. The 1 extra is the increase in the beginning, and the other one is the double crochet from the increase over here. And in the rows, in the next 2 rows where I'm not going to work an increase in the beginning, I am only going to have 1 extra stitch over here, which is the one from the increase of the sleeve that I'm working over here. Okay, just so you know how the increases affect each row. Now I'm going to work, starting from the next stitch, my 15 double crochet, starting from the first double crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and the last double crochet before the increase, 15. Again, remove the stitch marker and work your increase. 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet under the same chain 2 space. And again, place your stitch marker. And I'm going to work the front, where my 26 stitches are going to become 28. Starting from the first stitch. 1, 2, 3, and keep working up until you have 28 double crochet in the last stitch before the increase. I've worked my 28 double crochet, and now in the increase, in the chain 2 space, I'm going to remove my stitch marker, and again I'm going to work the same increase. 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet under the same space. And place again your stitch marker to know that in the next row you're going to work increases again. Now continue by working 15 double crochet starting from the first stitch after the increase. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So you always need to have the same number of stitches that you had on the other side as well. Now remove the stitch marker, and again in the chain 2 space work 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet under the same chain 2 space, and place again your stitch marker in the chain 2 space so you know in the next row, you're going to work an increase again. And finish the row in the same exact way that you started. So I started my row with an increase, so in the end of the row I need to work an increase as well in the last stitch, okay? So in the next stitch, which is the second before last, I'm going to work only 1 double crochet, and in the last stitch of the row, which is the chain 3, count from the bottom to the top and put your hook in the peak up here of the 3rd chain, and work 2 double crochet to finish the row with. And this applies to all sizes, the way that you're going to finish the row. Okay? So this was the row of increases in the beginning and in the end. Now we're going to work 2 rows with just increases on my stitch markers. So chain 2, and this applies to all sizes, turn your work, and we're not going to work in the first stitch, we're going to start from the second, because if we work from the first, it's going to be an increase again. Starting from the second stitch, work your second double crochet. So 2, 3, and 4, and on your stitch marker again, work your increase. 1 double crochet, chain 2, and 1 double crochet under the same chain space. Place again your stitch marker, and now, because the previous rows I went thoroughly, now we're going to work off camera. I'm going to work 17 stitches before my stitch markers, and then I'm going to work my increase. Then I'm going to continue with 30 double crochet between my stitch markers, okay? Then again 17, and finish with the same amount of double crochet as we did in the beginning, okay? Right here in the end. We're going to work 1 double crochet in the last 4 stitches, where in the last stitch I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to continue with the next row as well. Okay, so for all sizes, just keep working 1 double crochet in every stitch and work increases on your stitch markers. I'm almost done crocheting the 3rd row of my dress, and I have worked the 4 double crochet after the 3 double crochet after my increase, and now I'm left with the last stitch, okay, which is the chain 2 that we start a row with. So count from the bottom to the top and put your hook in the peak up here of the 2nd chain to work your last double crochet. And please do not remove this stitch marker, because this indicates the row that I worked the increase in the beginning and in the end of the row. After this row, I always want to have 2 rows with only increases in the stitch markers. And after I work those 2 rows, in the 3rd row, I'm going to work an increase in the beginning and in the end, and then I'm going to replace the stitch marker in that row of increases, okay? So now let's start the next row, row number 4, which is the 2nd row after the increase. 1, 2, and turn your work. Again, starting from the 2nd stitch, okay, this is the 2nd double crochet, and then work 3, 4, 5, and then your increase. Then your 17 stitches will become 19 in this row. Your 30 stitches in the middle will become 32, 19 stitches here as well. And here again, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches up until the end, where in the last stitch, I'm going to turn my video back on to work it together. So please always remember, in your stitch markers, in the chain 2 spaces, always work an increase up until we close for the sleeves to join, to close it up to join it. We are always going to be working increases in the chain 2 spaces. So once I finish the 4th row, I'm going to turn my video back on. I am almost done with my row. I have worked 4 double crochet after the increase, and the last stitch we're going to work together, because it is the 2nd chain counting from the bottom to the top right here in the peak. Work your last stitch. Now, because all sizes, we all start with only 1 double crochet after the increase in the beginning of the row, we all have the same number of stitches in the beginning and in the end. So here in the end, for all sizes, you all have the same number of stitches, and in the beginning as well. The only difference is the stitches between, because this has to do with the setup that you're working depending on the size that you're crocheting for, okay? So now let's start the next row, and if you see, after the increase, we worked 2 rows without increases. So in this row, in the 3rd row, after my stitch marker over here, I'm going to work an increase in the beginning and in the end of the row to help the V opening on the back to close, okay? So every time 3 rows after your stitch marker, again, you want to work the row of increases. So 1, 2, 3. Next row will be the row of increase. So I'm going to remove the stitch marker from here and I'm going to place it in the row that I'm going to start right away. Okay, so again, chain 2, 1, 2, and turn your work. Now we're going to start crocheting from the first stitch because we want to create an increase. So by doing this, I have 2 double crochet in the first stitch. Okay, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And don't forget to place your stitch marker right here in the first double crochet, so you know this is the row of increase. So this is the first row, which was the row of increase. Then I'm going to work 2 more rows without working the increase in the beginning and in the end. And then again, after I work the other 2 rows, again I'm going to work the row of increase. And this is the 5th row of my project. Now keep working the rest of the row as usual. Increase in the chain 2 space, 1 double crochet in every stitch, increase, 1 stitch in every stitch, increase, 1 double crochet in every stitch, increase, and in the end of the row I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to continue. I am almost done crocheting my row and I want to work an increase in the end. Okay, so after my increase over here with the stitch marker, I have 5 double crochet, and in the last stitch, and please be aware so you do not miss the last stitch of every row, the last stitch is always the chain 2. So always in the peak up here of that chain 2, you always want to work the last stitch of the row. And because this is the row where I'm going to work the increase in the end and in the beginning of the row, I'm going to work 2 double crochet in the last stitch. Okay, 1, same stitch, 2. So now let's see how my project is coming out, how the project is coming along. Okay, and this is what we have at this point. We are in row 5. Okay, this is the back and we see that it's closing slowly. This is the one sleeve, this is the other sleeve, and this is the front. Now, we are going to continue off camera up until it's time to close for the sleeves. Before I mention the process of the measurements and everything, please be aware that this is the first row, again, that we worked the increases. We're in row 5, and the first row again that we worked increase in the beginning and in the end. Now in row 6 and in row 7 we are not going to work an increase in these spots. In row 8 we will. Okay. Then row 9 and 10, it's going to be a row where I'm going to work 1 stitch in the beginning and in the end. In row 11 again we're going to work the increases in the beginning and in the end. So keep attaching the stitch marker in the row that you work the increase in beginning and in the end of the row. Okay, the increase is for the back. And after this row, you need always 2 rows without the increase. In the 3rd row, again, work the increase, and so on. In every single row, up until we finish, up until we close for the sleeves, always we are going to be working an increase in these 4 spots over here in the chain 2 spaces, always in every single row. Okay, so I'm going to keep working my increases in the chain 2 spaces, and I'm going to keep working off camera up until the sleeve opening, as mentioned in the chart, is 17 centimeters right over here. Up until this measures 17 centimeters, and up until the chest is around 39 to 40 centimeters. I mentioned that the chest circumference is 79 centimeters, but the circumference is all around the chest, so I need half of that measurement. So 79 divided by 2 is about 39 and a half, okay? So once this is 17, this will be around 39 to 40, this measurement from here to here. Once I reach at that point, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to close for the sleeves and how to continue from there on, okay? So keep working your rows. Don't forget to work your increases for the back. And once I reach the spot to close for the sleeves, we're going to work again together. I have completed crocheting so far, and look how nice and perfect the back part has started to close. Now at this point I have worked a total of 21 rows, and at this point my chest width is the one that I needed. So I am at 40 centimeters, okay? So I needed 39 and a half to 40, so I'm in the range that I needed. And my sleeve is about 17 centimeters, 16 and a half to 17. So I'm exactly at the measurements that I needed before we finished crocheting that I mentioned, okay? Now, we are going to close for the sleeves now, and we're going to close those 2 chain spaces together for the one sleeve, and those 2 chain spaces over here for the other sleeve. And I want you to make sure that the yarn is on your right side, because when it is on the right side and you close for the sleeves, all the stitches are on the same side. If your yarn is on the left side, the stitches here in the beginning are going to be in the wrong side, and then when you close for the sleeve, you're going to go on the other side, and the half of the stitches are going to look as they are on one side, on the good side, and the other half of the stitches are going to seem as if they are on the wrong side. And the project is not going to look nice. When the yarn is on the right, where when you turn to start crocheting is on the left, is where we want it to be. Okay, and let's start. Now make sure that the row that you're starting, it's not the one to work the increases for the back. If it's the row that you need to work the increases for the back, go ahead and work your increase in the beginning. I have worked my increase in the previous row, so I have worked one row with one stitch in the 2 ends, okay? The row that I'm going to start now is the second row where I work one stitch in both ends, and the next row is the one that I work my increase. But if you're in the row that you're going to work your increase, go ahead and work it, and then follow my directions to close the sleeve. So we always start with 2 chains, okay? Turn the work, starting from the second stitch, work your double crochet. So 2, 3, 4, and keep working 1 double crochet in every stitch up until we reach the stitch marker. Right here is the last double crochet that you're going to work, and then in the chain 2 spaces we're going to join the 2 sides together. I have worked my 1 double crochet in every stitch, and now it's time to work in the chain 2 spaces to close for the sleeves. Now I zoomed out just so you can see how I'm going to work the project, then I'm going to zoom in and we're going to see how to do it step by step. So what I'm going to do, see how we have those 2 sides attached together, because this is what we're going to leave out. We're going to close for the sleeve. I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the chain 2 in the front, then I'm going to work 1 double crochet grabbing both chain 2 spaces to close the 2 sides together, and then I'm going to turn my project in the back, and I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the chain 2 space in the back, and then I'm going to work 1 double crochet in every stitch on the front part of my dress up until I reach the other chain 2 space. Okay, so let's see how to do it. Okay, So go ahead and work 1 double crochet in the chain 2 space in the front, yarn over once, put your hook in the chain 2 space in the front and in the chain 2 space in the back, grab the yarn, pull through both chain 2 spaces, grab the yarn, pull through the first 2 loops, through the last 2 loops, and I joined the 2 sides together. Now turn your work and work 1 double crochet in the chain 2 space in the back right over here. Okay, and this is it. We close for the sleeve. Now go ahead and work 1 double crochet across up until we reach the next chain space to close for the other sleeve. And you can remove your stitch markers over here because we're not going to work any more increases for the sleeves. So I've completed crocheting the whole front over here. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close again the 2 chain 2 spaces to form the sleeve over here. Okay. So I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the chain 2 space, then 1 double crochet where I'm going to close the 2 chain 2 spaces together, and then 1 double crochet on the chain 2 space on the back. So let's crochet. Okay. Oops. So work 1 double crochet in your chain 2 space, yarn over once, put your hook in the chain 2 space in the front and in the chain 2 space in the back, take the yarn, pull it through both chain 2 spaces, grab the yarn, pull through 2, grab the yarn, pull through the last 2 to close your 2 sides with a double crochet. Now turn to the back and work 1 double crochet in the chain 2 space in the back. And here we go, we closed the other sleeve as well. Now keep working 1 double crochet in every stitch across. Okay, once I finish my row, I'm going to turn my video back on. Be aware that if you are in the row that you're working your increases, you're going to finish the row with an increase here as well. As you can see, it's not my row yet, so I'm going to work 1 double crochet in the last stitch. So we have closed for our sleeves, and this is how my work looks like at this point. The one sleeve and the other sleeve on the other side. Now what's only left is to keep working my increases in every third row for the back part to close up. Now what I want you to do, at this point my project has 70 double crochet on the front piece, and each of the back pieces has 30 double crochet. So 30 plus 30, I have 60 stitches, and in the front I have 70. So I want to keep working increases up until I have 35 stitches on this side and 35 stitches on the other side, which means that I'm going to have 70 stitches, and I'm going to be able to join to close and then to work in the round. Okay, so since I need 10 more stitches to reach 70, this means that the 5 stitches are going to come on the one side and the other 5 stitches are going to come on the other side, 5 plus 5, okay? And because I'm increasing in every third row, 3 times 5 is 15, so I'm approximately going to need 15 more rows until I reach the 35 and 35, okay? And as I'm going through, the bag is going to close up even more, and once I finish crocheting, once I reach the 35 stitches on the one side and the 35 on the other side, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to join the 2 sides together and then how to keep working in the round. Okay, so a little recap. We want the front side to be equal to the back side. So I have 70 in the front, a total of 60 in the back, so I need 10 more stitches. I need to have 35 stitches on this side, and 35 stitches on the other side. Okay, so keep crocheting, and I'm going to turn my video to see how to join and how to continue. I have completed crocheting so far. Counting from the bottom to the top, I have a total of 32 rows. Now, what I forgot to mention before I turn my video off, just so you don't have to put down your work and align the stitches the whole time, since I knew that for the front piece I had 70, so I needed 35 and 35 for the back. This makes a total of 140 stitches. So since I'm counting my stitches in every row, I know many of you don't, but it's very important since I'm counting my stitches. Once I worked my increases on the 32nd row, I counted my stitches and they were a total of 140. So I know that I need to stop at this point since I have the total number of stitches that I want, okay? So this is a row of increase, and you will all stop working in a row of increase when you get the total number of stitches that you need. Okay, and we measure it from the neckline to the bottom. At this point, my project is at about 29 centimeters. So now let's see how to close. So I am going to flip my work like this. I'm going to zoom in. Oops, that was too quick. Okay, so I'm zooming in. And after my last double crochet, I'm going to go across, and this right here is the beginning of the row where I have the 2 chains. So count from the bottom to the top and put your hook in that second chain and slip stitch. Oops. So here we go, we just joined our work, and now we're going to crochet in the rounds, and in every row we're going to be turning our work in order to have a straight seam on the back. So chain 2 and turn the work. Okay, now starting from the first double crochet, from the first stitch, work 1 double crochet all around for a total of 140 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and once I crochet in the last stitch over here where I'm going to have 140 stitches, I'm going to turn my video on. Please be aware that the chain 2 that I'm going to be working in the beginning of every row does not count as a stitch. These are going to be the chains that give me the height that I need to start my row. I am almost done crocheting my row, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to frog my last double crochet in order to work it together so we can attach the new color, because what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to attach the new color, the one that I'm going to make the skirt with, and we're going to crochet a few rows to make a belt. And then after we crochet the belts, we're going to continue from there on to make the skirt for the dress. Okay, so again, now I'm going to put my hook in the last double crochet for this row, grab the yarn, pull through the first 2 loops, and instead of finishing the double crochet with the white yarn, I'm going to bring up my new color, so take the yarn, pull it through the last 2 loops, sorry, and now my double crochet seems as if it has been finished with the white yarn, but at the same time I attached my new color, and work a slip stitch in the second chain, counting from the bottom to the top, okay, with a new color. And here we go. Now, because I'm going to work the belt and I'm going to be working front posts and back posts, for the few rows that I'm going to work the belts, I am not going to turn my work. I'm going to be working in one direction only. So chain 2, and this is my first stitch, and I'm going to work a front post double crochet. So put your hook from the front to the back on the right side of the stitch and bring your hook out on the left side and you're pulling outwards your double crochet and work a double crochet. Yarn over once, put your hook around the next stitch and work a back post. So put your hook on the right side from the back to the front and to the back again on the left side, so you're pulling backwards a stitch and work a back post double crochet. Yarn over once. The next stitch is going to be a front post, so put your hook on the right side from the front to the back and bring it out to the front again on the left side and work a front post double crochet. The next stitch is going to be a back post, so from the right side put your hook from the back to the front and take it out to the back again, so you're pulling backwards a stitch and work a back post double crochet. So keep working one front post and one back post double crochet, and once I finish my row back here on the last stitch, which is either going to be a front post or a back post, I'm going to turn my video back on to see how to continue. I'm almost done crocheting my row. The last stitch was a back post double crochet, so my last stitch is always going to be a back post double crochet. And now I'm going to finish the row by working a slip stitch in the second chain, counting from the bottom to the top. Okay. Now we're going to start the second row together, and we're going to finish the belt part of the dress off camera, because the row is always going to be finishing in the same exact way we finished the row that we just crocheted, and it's always going to start this way. Chain 2, do not turn your work until we finish the belt, okay? And since the first stitch was a front post, I want to keep working a front post double crochet around the first stitch. So put your hook from the front to the back on the right side and bring it out to the front again on the left side and work a front post double crochet. The second stitch is a back post, but because the back posts are not that visible, try to open up the stitches so you can see where the stitch is. So you can put your hook from the back to the front of the right side and now to the back again on the left side and work a double crochet. So keep working one front post double crochet, one back post double crochet. Okay, and the last stitch is always going to be this one over here, which was a back post double crochet, then slip stitch the second chain, counting from the bottom to the top. And once I finish working my belt, I'm going to turn my video back on. I'm going to mention how many rows I have worked and what's the width of the belt, and then we're going to start crocheting the skirt.